Perhaps the biggest focus for both India and Pakistan post the Pahalgam attack has been building global support through diplomatic overreach and overdrive. There's a visible contrast in the shape that diplomacy by both sides have taken, and that in itself conveys a strong message on their identities. Here's more.
An attack that shook the subcontinent, shook humanity. An attack on civilians, barging far beyond past recurring themes of Pak-backed terrorists sent into the valley to take on Indian security forces. A diplomacy overdrive on both sides that has pushed on for years takes on new intensity and dimensions, as both sides tighten up on efforts to shape global narratives in their favor. Compare the two lines of diplomacy, each pushing contrasting agendas. India pushes a narrative of being a victim of terrorism. Pakistan calls itself a victim of propaganda. India cites solidarity with global norms of peaceful coexistence. Pakistan jumps even more strongly onto its Kashmir rant to deflect all allegations of wrongdoing. India's diplomacy has taken the line of evidence sharing as big findings emerge in Pahalgam of the Pakistan hand. Pakistan clings to denial as it rakes up human rights counter-accusation. India's diplomacy centers around seeking strong global condemnation of the Pahalgam attack and citing continued Pak-sponsored cross-border terrorism against India. It looks to reinforce its image as a responsible state, highlighting previous attacks by Pak-based groups. New Delhi aims to isolate Pakistan diplomatically on global platforms like the UN, G20 and BRICS, and seeks outright punishment of the perpetrators.
मैं सभी आतंक फैलाने वालों को कहना चाहता हूं कि लड़ाई का अंत नहीं है, एक मकाम है, हर व्यक्ति को चुन चुन कर जवाब भी मिलेगा, जवाब भी लिया जाएगा.
At the core of Pakistan's diplomacy is denial of any hand and calls for joint and neutral investigations. Admissions by the TRF group are desperately pulled back.
We oppose the mention of TRF at the UNSC statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack.
Jitters mount on when and how an Indian attack will come, and Islamabad's routine fallback is India politicizing terrorism for domestic or international mileage. Pakistani media and diplomatic channels cry false flag operations or internal security lapses in India. Even here though, big holes show through in what's now become a series of admissions of Pakistan's ingrained terror identities.
We have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and West, including Britain.
Perhaps the oldest Pakistan diplomacy bogey has been the Kashmir rant at global fora, accusing India of rights violations, demanding international intervention is the theme. The platforms used United Nations, OIC, or even the outreach to all-weather ally China. Over the past few days, the global tone has changed from condemnation to de-escalation as international diplomatic channels have gone on an overdrive to avoid a full-blown India-Pak confrontation, as South Asia nears boiling point. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Joining me now is Veena Sikri from New Delhi, who is a former Indian diplomat. Sir, welcome to WION and thank you for joining us. What do you see as being the main message from the United States to India and Pakistan regarding de-escalation?
Well, I think that first of all, we have to recognize that the attack, this brutal bestial attack on innocent tourists in Pahalgam, that was itself an act of war. That was something that should never have taken place. In no civilized society does this happen. It was a terrorist attack and it was an act of war. Now, India has been, considering its own options. They're going to, take their own decision. There's no need to speculate on anything that India may or may not be planning to do. But I think it is very important that India is making every effort to talk to all nations of the world and to explain to them the situation. And I think the situation has to be understood from these 2 points of view. First, that this was a terrorist attack, an attack, a war like attack. It was an act of war. Secondly, the whole of Jammu and Kashmir belongs to India. Constitutionally, under the, now even this temporary, the specified as temporary Article 370, this has now been done away with. So there is absolutely no question but that the entire territory of Jammu and Kashmir belongs to India. For India, the only concern is how to get back that part of Jammu and Kashmir that is now illegally occupied by Pakistan. So I think that to even entertain any discussion from Pakistan on this point globally, or for Pakistan to make this, an internal point, we know that the Chief of Army Staff in a recent speech called it the jugular vein for Pakistan. I mean, this is absolutely irrelevant. We know that the defense minister of Pakistan himself admitted that they have been conducting these terrorist attacks. They said they have been doing this, the West dirty work. That means they themselves are engaged in it, and they're continuing it right now. So I think that all the discussions that our external affairs minister, our defense minister, our prime minister, all the discussions, all the telephone calls have been focused on these points, on explaining to the world community, giving them the evidence, sharing the evidence that these are acts of war, these are unacceptable terrorist attacks. The Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Taiba and its resistance front, they have accepted responsibility for it. And it was there. They accepted responsibility on the very first day. And they very proudly accepted responsibility for this terrorist attack. This shows, the kind of terrorism that they're engaged with. And they are living openly in Pakistan, despite the fact that the world has condemned them as terrorist groups, but they're still living openly in Pakistan, and there's still no effort to curb their activities of any kind. So I think that, this is a very important aspect for India to explain to the rest of the world that this situation cannot continue in this way, and Pakistan must accept the reality of Jammu and Kashmir and to absolutely stop the activities of all the terrorist groups that it harbors on its soil.
Yeah, it's very bizarre that Pakistan also uses its non-permanent member status at the Security Council to shield the resistance front when it comes to issuing a statement by that council. But just to follow up on what you're saying, how credible has diplomacy from the two sides been in light of the fact that a string of Pakistan's own leaders, as you rightly mentioned, have come out and basically admitted that the country backs terrorism?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned about the Security Council resolution. Yes, Pakistan is a non-permanent member, but you have seen that the resolution was moved by the United States. And in this resolution, you see very interestingly that Jammu and Kashmir is not referred to as a disputed area. Now, this is very important and very significant that, the United Nations does not consider Jammu and Kashmir to be a disputed area. It is a state, a fully owned state of the Indian Republic, and it will remain as such. There is no question. And for us, the question is only to bring back the Pakistan occupied section of Jammu and Kashmir. So I think this is an important point that has been brought out this time in the strong Security Council resolution. You are quite right. And I also said that, Pakistan is readily admitting that they do conduct terrorist activities from their soil. So Pakistan is a state sponsor of terror. I think this is the important point for the world to accept, and this is a very important point to recognize globally, the world over, that Pakistan is a state sponsor of terror and must be condemned as such. Where are the weaponry coming from? Where is the finance coming from? I think Pakistan should be put on the FATF blacklist, because they have been, giving all these illegal financial aid to the terrorist groups and giving them weaponry. So I think these are very important points that in the diplomatic discussions that India has been had, that over 130 countries have expressed their solid support to the government of India. And in the last few days, our external affairs minister, our defense minister, our prime minister, they've been having discussions with many leaders of the world. So it is combined, of course, with all this diplomatic overdrive is what has been the discussions in India on the security situation led by the Prime Minister, and with the participation of the Chiefs of Defence Staff and the National Security Advisor. And for them, they will be making their own decisions. And I think they will be making their own decision. They're studying the situation. They're taking the steps that are necessary. And the whole nation is with them. There's another unique point this time. This time, there is no political quibbling about it. All the groups, all the communities, every different part of India is fully with the with the government, and they have left it to the government that you study the situation and take a decision on what you think needs to be done, which is in the best interest of the country and best interest of all the people of the country. So this is a very united India that you have, a completely united India, who recognizes that this terrorism just cannot be allowed to continue, and who recognizes that the state of Jammu and Kashmir is fully a part of India. So this is high time that the global community recognize this and shut down all discussions on Jammu and Kashmir, and stopped what is called the Maulvi chief of army staff of Pakistan, who was there today. And even when he made the speech a few days ago, he was really the kind of words he used against people of other religions, against Hindus, and against this calling Kashmir the jugular vein. This was absolutely unacceptable to the people of India, and all the communities in India said, "What is this? What is this kind of speech?" He's doing it to shore up his own internal position. He's doing it to shore up a situation where he can continue as chief of army staff, for the next decade, perhaps. He's already given himself a long-term extension. So this is all the internal problems of Pakistan. In fact, we do know that many people in Pakistan, many communities, many groups advised the chief of army staff not to undertake any such act of war, because they knew that the response would be absolutely unbearable for Pakistan. We know that Pakistan is facing enormous internal problems in separatist movements from Baluchistan, from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, from Sindh, and the Indian government's very decisive response so far. They have put the Indus water treaties in abeyance. They have expelled the defense attaches, Navy, Army, Air Force from Pakistani defense attaches from India, and they have further lowered the diplomatic relations between the two countries.
Right.
These steps have been fully accepted by the world over.
Right.
Nobody has any comment on these steps. So I think
That's
that
right.
this is a good, important.
There are no misconceptions. Ambassador, I am so sorry to be able to cut you off right now. I'm running out of time. So I have to thank you very much for that thorough analysis, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.